Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to show you guys. This is the Kizer Drop Bear 2. What's different about it? Oh, it's a button lock. No, it's actually a button operated compression lock. That is a much different thing than a button lock. This is pretty cool, and the idea here is that Kizer's probably, I mean, it's not their first compression lock knife, but the idea here is that they seem to be wanting to implement this system on a number of newer models, right? Or hopefully newer models as we go down the road. I am a huge fan of the compression lock, which the patent has ended on, right? We've talked about this many times. The Spyderco compression lock, that's what this is. It is a button-operated version of this. This is superior to not only, plunge locks or button locks, but liner locks, and in my opinion, even frame locks because of the way that it engages. It does not slip underneath, it slips behind. The lock face is actually behind the blade. This makes for substantially better lockup reliability, and it's also very, very easy to manipulate. I prefer this system over any, crossbar locking version of this that there is. They do have like the Drop Bear 2 with the crossbar lock, I think. But this system is much, much more preferable. Very cool. There's a couple of things I want to point out here, but this is a good knife. It might be a little bit difficult to get for a little bit, but depending on when you're watching this video, it might be available. So I will link it down in the description. You guys can check it out if you want to. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. We're going to burn through specs here real quick because this is the Drop Bear. So it's pretty much the same as the other ones, I think. Might be a little bit different. 6.85 inches overall blade length is 2.85 inches, and cutting edge is 2.5 inches. Let's do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. Up against the 8010 in my own Excalibur, you can see here it's not a huge knife, but it's also not a tiny knife. It's still kind of like in medium knife territory. Let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. And then finally, let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Most closely relates to the Para 3. In fact, the ergonomic lines are pretty similar. It actually has, well, no, it's actually got less cutting edge than the Para 3. But ergonomically, very open. So despite it being on the smaller side, it's actually still possible to get a full, comfortable grip, even choked back, which is crazy. Let's talk about the action, though. That's what really matters. Now, many of you who watch the unboxing know that I had two of these. One of them had very light lock bar tension. It's my understanding that this is not the intention of Kizer, like this, that was a goof up, but Kizer needs to take extra care with this locking system for sure. You guys need to take extra care that all of these compression lock knives have the same high tension. There's a lot of tension holding that lock bar into place. On a compression lock, you definitely need that. I mean, there's a lot of different things, including proper geometry, right? But we can't be willy-nilly with the tension on the lock bar. That thing should be aggressively shoving itself behind the blade. That's really, really important. Spyderco has got that figured out. And in fact, every single company who's trying to figure this system out, you need to have a lot of tension back there. It's better to have a little tiny bit of lock stick with high tension than no lock stick and low tension, because that's what will cause a system like this to disengage. To be fair, I do know a little bit about how complicated it is to implement your own compression lock, because we did that with the Excalibur, and that took a long time. I wasn't the one doing all the intricate testing, but I was filled in, along the way. You can't just slap it in there. Like, this isn't something that can be 3D printed and then they just screw it into a knife. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of teeny tiny little adjustments that have to be made, just like any locking system before a knife is actually ready for market. But I did have one of these Kizer Drop Bears that disengaged, and it was on camera. This one did not disengage when I tested it. Also on camera in that unboxing, and it has not disengaged the entire time that I have been carrying it and using it, which admittedly is very lightly. I don't do a lot of crazy extreme testing, right? Just kind of use a knife the way that it should be used, but it didn't disengage. So yeah, that's something that for sure Kizer, you need to make sure all of the tension on these compression locks is high tension. Very important. The action on this is awesome because this is not a plunge lock. The plunge lock is not acting as the D10. On the crossbar locking versions of this, obviously you have a totally different setup, right? It's kind of like the D10 is created by the crossbar lock, so it's kind of like this long, like, you know. This has an actual detemp ball. So it deploys. That's the nice thing about a liner lock or a frame lock. They have a detemp ball usually. So you get that crispy release, right? You don't get that with the crossbar locks or the plunge locks. This is awesome. This is the best of everything. It's super crispy to deploy with the thumb stud, and it's very easy to deploy with, using the reverse flick method. You can also just push the button and kind of whip it out like this. Really awesome. Runs on bearings. Love it. It's exactly what I would expect. And no more, no less. I'm happy with it. That's what they should do. Carry profile, thickness up against the Spyderco Pair 3. This is a pretty thin knife. It's not, I don't think it's, yeah, it is actually contoured. It is. And it's also thin, so that's cool. Length and height up against the PM2 and Pair 3. This is a super easy and compact knife to carry. Very good. No complaints. How about a hardware check? Let's get out my tools. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. I said that this was exactly the same as or I implied that it was exactly the same as the Drop Bear, and it's obviously not. This is the Drop Bear 2, and they've changed a couple of things. If I had one here, I'd compare, but overall it just feels a little more compact, which is fine. We have a T8 for the pivot, and we have a T8 for the body screws. We also look at Kizer. Look at these guys going with T8 for the pocket clip screws. They kind of like hang over the top of it. I think that's perfectly fine. This is nice. Why? Because it allows you to use the same, bit for all of the screws. And a compression lock is not a difficult thing. Like a knife with a compression lock is very simple to take apart and put back together. You'll also possibly have one more screw right here for this extra thumb. I'm not sure why they needed another one there, but I mean, whatever. It's not really that big of a deal. Very easy to take apart and put back together. There might be a T6 under there. Not a deal breaker for me. I don't think it should be a deal breaker for anybody. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. What are we looking at for materials? In this case, we're looking at G10, and we're looking at AEBL for the blade. They also come in Nitro V. How does AEBL compare to a lot of the other budget steels? Well, from what I can understand from Laren Thomas's charts, it's pretty tough. I believe AEBL is stainless. It's used largely with fixed blades. I think one of the most interesting things about AEBL is that you can get it pretty high in HRC, and it maintains quite a bit of toughness. In terms of edge retention, it's depending on how hard it is, from like 61 to 65. It's like anywhere from the same as Nitro V to slightly better than 14C28N, maybe BD1N. I can't remember. The problem with saying BD1 is that there's BD1 and BD1N, and I guess those are different. So I don't know. It's in that general range. It's nothing ultra spectacular, but it is apparently a steel that you can kind of throw around, right? I don't know that there's a major benefit to choosing AEBL over Nitro V, but I'm honestly not familiar with either steel enough to know. I think this steel will probably hold a meh edge, and then you'll be able to touch it back up pretty easily, and it'll also be super tough, presumably. I don't know how Kizer is heat treating it, but it's one of those steels that has an enormous range, probably because that's probably why we see it in fixed blades and folding knives sometimes. But I think it's fine, especially considering the price of this knife, which we will get to. So yeah, pick whichever steel you like better. I don't think there's anything wrong with either steel. We just don't see AEBL a lot. We do have nested steel liners in here. So steel clip, G10, nested steel liners, and AEBL for the blade. This guy probably weighs right around 3. Yeah, 2.9 ounces on that. That's fine with me. Balance is a little ways back of the pivot. Not bad. Pretty good, actually. Let's measure the blade stock thickness, and we will move into the meat and potatoes of this review. The blade stock thickness on this guy's coming in actually, no, it's very thin, at 92 thousandths. Okay, meat and potatoes. This is a great knife. The Drop Bear is a popular knife, definitely. A lot of people put the Drop Bear, the standard Drop Bear, on like the top 20 greatest budget knives of all time. And yeah, it probably is, right? It's really, really good. Getting rid of Omega springs is, I think, should be the top priority of any company that makes budget, mid-range, or premium knives. They're fine, but it's one of those things that could go at any time. You get rid of them and you don't have to worry about it. We're going to have people in the comments who say, I had a knife with Omega springs and it broke the first day I had it. And you'll have people going, I've been using a knife with Omega springs for 10 years and it's totally fine. Okay, but factually, they are, as we have seen over many, many, many years. We've seen on YouTube, on Reddit, on forums, on, wherever, Instagram. People are like, my Omega springs broke. You hear about that more often than any other system failing. The crossbar lock itself is strong when the Omega springs are intact. If the Omega springs break, well, obviously that goes out the window. And it's annoying. It's easy to fix, and it's very cheap to replace Omega springs. It's just annoying. Systems like, compression locks, or like especially systems that can fully replace the ambidextrous nature of crossbar lock. That's the big deal for a lot of people, is that it's you can use it right or left-handed. And left-handed people, it's great, right? They don't have to make different versions of the knife. I would argue, especially with the button-operated compression locks, that these are incredibly, like, even for left-handed people, like, these are so easy. You just use your index finger. It can potentially create a problem ergonomically for left-handed people because of where the button is positioned, right? But manipulating the knife is really easy. A compression lock, in my opinion, is superior to a crossbar lock. I think it wins in too many other areas, and I think it's at least as strong. I don't know, honestly. I just know that the way that it locks up, it makes it far more reliable than your simple plunge locks and your liner locks and frame locks, right? It doesn't rely nearly as much on geometry. It does rely on geometry, but it's not like fully dependent on geometry like a liner lock or frame lock. Anyways, this is good. It's very good. It feels good. It feels right. Ergonomically, I think it's awesome. You have the jimping that extends out here about halfway through the blade. Then there's more jimping out here if you want to do like your draw cuts or whatever. Nice and thin behind the edge. Geometry is going to play a bigger role in how well your blade cuts through material. This will be just fine, right? Doing simple knife tasks. I love the choke up spot. I think that's really important on a knife of this size. As is the, we're going to see it in the comments, and you guys are right. Make a bigger one. Yeah, I agree. A lot of these like really, really good EDC compression lock knives that have come out are all great, and companies seem to be slightly reluctant right now to just make bigger versions. Just make the same thing, but bigger. Like, I would love this exact knife, but like an inch longer or an inch and a half longer. I think that'd be awesome, right? But it's fine the way that it is. It's a really good EDC size. Very comfortable, no sharp edges anywhere. It's very easy to hold on to. I have no complaints there. There's 3 standoffs. You can use one as a lanyard thing if you want to, but I think the blade might interact with it. It might cut it, and whatever. You can use the pocket clip then. Pocket clip is reversible, and Kizer cares about left-handed people, so there is a position for that pocket clip. It's got kind of a long bill, might catch on things, but honestly, pretty good. In and out of the pocket. It's got maybe medium-high retention on that pocket clip, but it feels good. You have a stop pin right here for the open position. What you're seeing right here is the sort of the shaft for the thing that interacts with the compression lock itself, which you should be able to see coming out of the side right there. You see it coming out of the side there, and it locks up behind the blade right there. That top part, the little gray area right there, is where that engages. All right, and then you have the closed position stop pin down here. That's what that third one is. Your actual lockup, completely and totally solid, no blade play. This one's completely fine, but like I said, the other one with the light tension did disengage. Not that this is a very good or intelligent test, but that's what we got to do, right? Don't do stuff like that with your knife. That's dumb. But, sometimes you might get the blade stuck and wiggle it around, right? Put pressure on that. We don't want it disengaging. So, No lock stick whatsoever. Just none. Feels well, not none. That's a lie. Little tiny bit. You can see it right there. It's basically nothing. It doesn't bother me. I'd rather have it lock up correctly. We have no pivot lash. Pretty smooth in here. No issues. In fact, very smooth. And then your detent, which, exists because there's the detent ball. Nice and clicky. Are we centered? Yeah, it has stayed centered the entire time. Kizer has this listed on their website for $58. That's pretty awesome. Your competitors are, like the biggest competitors, are going to be these guys right here. Your Vosteed button-operated compression locks. The Raccoon and the super popular Porcupine, right? I would say this is just as good. It's a little smaller. They just need a bigger one. 14C28N versus AEBL and Nitro V. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are just going to default to 14C28N because that's what Laren Thomas said a long time ago, is that it's like the best budget steel, the best balance. Honestly, I feel like all of these steels will perform nearly identical, and people using this stuff probably won't, like me included, will not really notice the difference. I don't think it's until you get up into the super mega high toughness or mega high edge retention steels that, the average person can actually tell after extended use. I don't know. I bet Laren Thomas is right. 14C28N has the best balance, but I'm still okay with this being an AEBL. Or Nitro V. I mean, whatever. $69 for both the Raccoon and the Porcupine. So this guy is like $10 less. And I got to be honest with you, I found a listing for this guy on Amazon for $50. That's crazy. As long as Kizer pays very close attention to the consistency, the manufacturing quality and consistency of their lock bar tension in these compression locks. And yeah, I know Kizer probably has their own name for the compression lock. I'm not going to be bothered to remember all these different companies when everybody comes out with their own freaking their own compression lock. Do you guys remember, every company coming out with their own crossbar lock, and they all had like Kizer has the clutch lock, and there's a bunch of different. I can't be bothered to remember all those. I know it as the crossbar lock because it was originally with Benchmade, and then the patent ended, right? Same thing with this. It's a compression lock. It originated with Spyderco, the patent ended, so now everybody's got to call it their own thing. We have to. I mean, I know they have to. Like even with the Excalibur coming up. And like Kunmu created their own. Originally they jokingly called it the confession lock. Now they call it the Verta lock, right? I'm still probably gonna even call that on my own knife. I'm probably gonna call it the compression lock. It's just what I'm gonna say. So I don't know what Kizer calls this, and truthfully, I don't really care that much. I care about what it does. I think Kizer implemented this pretty well on this example that works, right? As long as they do that and they're all like this, I think they'll be fine. I would love to see them do this on a bunch of other stuff. But as it sits, this is a stupidly recommendable knife. This is an awesome knife. I love this. I love this so much more than the standard Drop Bear. This is amazing. It's really good. Assuming that they have consistent quality control. Now, I'll retroactively go back and change this. I'll make a note in the comments, right? But if I find out that Kizer's got a big issue with quality control on their compression locks, and some of them have high tension and some of them have weak tension, right? Then that's obviously not okay, right? All I can do is just take a look at the examples here, and I've talked to a few other folks who have these, and theirs seem to be fine as well. But after maybe a few thousand people have these, maybe we'll have some more reports. As of right now, this is amazing. I highly recommend it. I will put this in my recommended knives playlist as well as my cheap knives I like playlist. If you can get your hands on this, go for it. Kizer, do more with this. Make a bigger one of these. Make all of the stuff that has been really popular that you guys have made in the past. Make one with a freaking button-operated compression lock. I think people will love it. Just make sure that you've got that tension thing down. That's going to be it today, guys. Where did my card? The card is just gone, I guess. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. If you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.